If you want to paint landscapes with watercolor, you can follow this simple tutorial. I will explain to you all the steps that come into the process of painting a landscape, and this will give you an idea how to create layers of paint and make even washes. So let's jump right in. To paint this landscape, you will need watercolor paints, obviously. You can use whatever brand of paints you have. I personally buy an empty palette and fill it with professional watercolors in tubes. Then I let them dry and use water to reactivate them before painting. For this painting, I will be using the following colors: French Ultramarine, Winsor Blue Green Shade, or Phthalo Blue. It's the same pigment in different brands. Burnt Umber, New Gamboge, Permanent Rose, Winsor Yellow, and Sepia. If you don't have the exact same colors, you can use the colors that are closest to these on your palette and you will be just fine. Next is watercolor paper. I strongly recommend that you use cotton paper, and it will be ideal if it is 300 GSM in weight. And as for texture, I prefer cold pressed medium grain texture, but you can also use hot press or rough, whatever you prefer. Now on to brushes. You will need a large soft brush that holds a lot of water. Mine is the Vinci Casaneo size 12. Natural squirrel or squirrel imitation brush would be the best choice. And for minor details in richer darks, I will be using a ProArte Sablene series size 6. It has stiffer bristles, a pointy tip, and is smaller in size to get more into detail. Additionally, you will need a pencil for the sketch, some paper towels, artist tape or masking tape, a cup for water, and a dryer if you don't want to wait for the layers to dry naturally. And let's start painting. I've already taped down my paper, so let's take a pencil and start sketching. I'm always being loose with my sketches, so basically what I need to do is to draw the shape of the hills and suggest where my trees are going to be. And I'm really just sketching the trunks for trees. I don't need to draw in all the crowns. It is much easier to do with your brush later on. And I also need to draw where the road is going to be. And when drawing a road, make it narrower as it moves sideways across the picture and wider as it approaches the viewer to create an illusion of depth and perspective. And now it's time to paint. Pick up your larger brush and dip it into water. Now start adding some colors onto your palette and make a mixture for the sky. Make sure you have a lot of water on your brush and the puddle you create is large and watery. We're gonna also mix the color for the land right away. I'm making a natural brownish color that I want to use for my road, but we will be covering the whole ground with color later on, so trust the process. If you need to add some color or water into the puddles to adjust the color or consistency, it's best to do it before painting. When you're ready with your mixtures, pick up the sky color and drag it across the paper at the top, making sure it is really wet and watery, and I'm adding more water to continue this wash to be able to create a gradient. Your sky should be darkest at the top and lightest at the horizon line, so I'm adding more water with each stroke, letting the water create a natural gradient. You can then dry your brush off a paper towel and remove excess water at the bottom of the wash to prevent the second color from bleeding into the sky. Now we can come in with the land color. Just drag the color across the bottom part of the paper, making quick and confident motions. Now we're gonna let things dry. I'm using a regular hair dryer and I'm gonna keep drying the paper until it becomes completely flat again, and this will mean that everything is fully dried and ready for painting. Now let's mix some greens for the second wash. I'm using some yellow, brown, and blue to create a warm, natural shade of green. Make sure the wash is watery but still is vibrant and has enough pigment to show on your painting. And I'm coming in with my very wet brush that has a lot of that mixture in it, and I'm trying to suggest the shapes for the trees, being very loose with my motions and not taking too much time to make them look perfect. Our goal here is to create one single connected shape. This can be achieved when you use a larger brush full of water and try to go from one side of the painting to another, dragging this wash and keeping it all the same amount of wet. This is basically why you need to prepare your puddles of paint in advance, because it's the same water to paint ratio in that same puddle. Now, when you're done with the main large area, you can add some smaller details and adjust the shape. So this was our second wash, or the middle value wash, and now we're letting things dry again and we have the darkest values left to do. I'm going to pick a smaller brush and I will really take my time to pick up the paints from the pans to achieve really rich dark tones. To do this, you will need a brush with stiffer bristles, and the brush needs to be a lot less wet than what we did before. I'm using blue, yellow, and dark browns to achieve this deep green color. The consistency should be cream to butter, so very thick paint. And now you can come in to paint the dark details. You can hold your brush sideways and the texture of the paper will help you create those interesting dry brush textures. This is a great technique to paint trees and foliage because this way the trees basically paint themselves. And you can use some water to blend out some edges and soften those harsh shadows, adding more variety to the tonal values in your trees. You can also add some shadows and details to your foreground because this is where the viewer will see the most detail. So I'm shading the edges of the road, adding some grasses to the foreground, and I will also add a little bit of red to my watery puddle to make a warmer shade and to add some texture to the center of the road, and this will make it look more finished. And we're done. Let's try it again and take the masking tape off and look at the final result. I hope that was helpful and easy for you to do. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!